Client getting secrets is what we're talking about today. So if you are an entrepreneur of any sort, you're a service provider, you have products, books, courses to sell, stay right there. We're going to be dropping lots of gold nuggets for you today.
Welcome to Coffee with the Queens, empowering you to grow and protect your cash credit castle and kingdom. Have you ever heard the phrase, get your ducks in a row, and you feel like you haven't done that? We share learned lessons and practical advice to help guide you to a life of financial freedom. Empowerment is key, so grab your coffee and crown and let's get to it. Take it away, Queen Tammy.
Good morning, Queen.
Good morning. Good morning. Has everybody got your coffee?
So today is a topic that is, it really seems to be the crux of problems when you're an entrepreneur, especially when you're starting out. You have this beautiful name, you have a beautiful brand, you have a beautiful service, and now you just need those customers. So this is often people to buy this stuff, right? Right? So that is one of the hardest things to do. Everyone knows, who's followed me in the past knows I'm a huge advocate of Amazon because they kind of built an ecosystem to do that for you. But when you're not on Amazon or on an e-commerce site that has all of that figured out for you, there are different methods and strategies you have to use to bring that customer to you. So I'm curious, all of us are entrepreneurs here. What have you ladies, each of you, done in your entrepreneurial life and careers that has been pretty successful in bringing new customers to your business?
I have to say, I think for a few of us, it's going to be speaking. For me, it was speaking for sure, but also using media and getting onto even podcasts, which are huge right now and growing exponentially. It's unbelievable. I've got to get my ducks in order when it comes to getting my podcast up because I'm really on the last wave of this perhaps, but there are so many, and there's great opportunities for letting people know what you do and making sure that you give something that makes them want more of you whenever you're in those situations. And also media as in print. Get your articles published. If it's possible, find a way to get on a cover of a magazine, even if it is a magazine that is specific to a small niche. Because when you put a cover on your homepage that you're on a cover of a magazine, it's really cool. And they actually become your marketing partner. They collaborate with you they're getting your face out there, and you in turn also are telling people about the magazine. So even if it's a small magazine, do what you can to get on a cover. I think it's really beneficial.
Yeah, that's great, Sandra. And when you say that, it just reminds me that when you are in like a Time magazine, I've been in Time magazine, I've been in Cosmopolitan, and people actually see you as an expert that way. Yeah. So how I bring people in is by word of mouth, by people knowing me. I'm creative, and so I make all these DVDs and books. And so when I have them in my classes, people see you more as an expert.
Yeah, I think I'm totally in agreement with what the other queens have said. I use the power of other people's stages to get awareness. So I was really fortunate about a year and a half ago when I decided to launch my probate workshop. There was an organization in San Francisco getting ready to do a huge citywide event. And somebody knew my topic and they sent me an email. They said, sign up. I signed up. I got accepted. So now I just called the senior center where I wanted to do my workshop. I said, well, I'm part of this group. And normally when people call this senior center, you get vetted. You have to have degrees. No, because I was part of this workshop, I had immediate credibility. They signed me up, and now I'm part of the network, and everybody else they did all the registration for me. I did the workshop. I got the testimonials when they walked out the door. But the most important thing is they are now moving this entity, this event, to 5 cities across the United States of America. And all of a sudden, I'm going to be on stages across the U.S. So I use the power of other people's stages.
And I have to say, and kudos to you, because you brought up something that I think is important to mention, because people have this fear. Now, of course, that's what I do, right? I help people no matter where they are get over that, any inhibitions, so they can get the message out. But I want to encourage people that say, hey, maybe I'm not terrified of it anymore, and I'm willing to do it, but I don't know what to say. If you get an opportunity, like Kathy, you're like, well, I'm just going to put in for this and see what happens. Just put in for the opportunity to speak. See what happens. Because I have to admit something to you. When I started my speaking career, I literally was at a conference and met a gentleman that had a huge stage that he needed somebody within a week to be on. And he said, what do you do? And I told him, and he said, do you speak? Can you sell this? Can you sell that? Can you sell that? I think I just printed my business cards. And I went, yeah, sure. And I'm like, that's build the plane while you're flying it. I mean, trust me, if you say yes and you get the opportunity like you did, Kathy, you will find a way to put it together. The right coach will show up, the right person will show up to help you organize it, and you will do it. And then, like Kathy, maybe you can end up being in 5 different cities just because you said yes, even though you weren't quite ready. I mean, guys do that. Ladies, we need to do that more often, even though we're not 100% ready. Just say yes.
And not that they put up a website and they let my products be there for no cost. So I am reaching thousands of people at no cost every day, every week.
That's the best way organically.
That's really highlighting why new platforms like Clubhouse are so successful these days, because it doesn't cost anything. Like-minded people can come together in groups, where we used to do that and still do that in Facebook groups as well. And you'll see Facebook posts as well on maybe the women entrepreneur groups that request, hey, who can be on my podcast? Who can join me in my Clubhouse room? So I would say that, for those of you who haven't been speaking at events before, it's easier now than ever before through these new channels. And, in my experience too, I think the speaking thing was very, very, very crucial in establishing myself as an expert in, in the Amazon and e-commerce field, especially. I would say before you do speak, make sure that you have a book, or like you said, Sandra, something free to give away. So you can leave a calling card. Not even if you don't have something to sell, bring, a book, a guide, a give me something that's very useful and powerful and helpful and allows you to stick in their mind. And
then you can bring someone else's book and sign it. Put your card. I mean, if you have to, right? Like Think and Grow Rich for Women, and just say, hey, this has really led me to gift from me to you, and put your card on it, sign the inside of the book so at least your name is on it. I mean, there's things that you can do if you have nothing else.
That's a great idea. And the last thing I would say is, Kathy, you said testimonials. So I used to speak at many events, and I always miss that opportunity at the end, because people are wowed after they hear new information. So I would just grab them off to the side and, ask them how they felt about it, or what they learned, what their biggest takeaway was. And those testimonials were really, really crucial when I promoted my program or my book later. You need those. So I would say definitely do not miss that opportunity. And the last thing I want to say is, one of the best places to have your voice heard these days is YouTube, which is why we're here, because there's organic growth there based on your messaging, just like Amazon. So I'm a huge advocate of that.
Speaking of YouTube, make sure to
back to if you don't think you have anything to sell. So what I created was a workbook. I had a book, but I thought I can't give them the book. So I took that book, I took it into a PowerPoint presentation that became a workbook. So I literally, when I taught, and because of my audience, I spoke personally, and instead of doing a big slide, which I thought they couldn't probably see because of their eyes and my eyes, I gave them workbooks. And literally it was 100% interactive. I put them at tables and I started talking, and they asked me questions. And this workbook was so cool. I just did PowerPoint. And then I figured out they have this little button called design, and it made my workbook look so awesome graphically. I'm literally 10 minutes. I'm calling my son saying, I'm sending you this PDF. Please deliver it at this workshop. And he did. That's what I did.
He can make it work, right?
I made it work.
And speaking of, and we'd mentioned YouTube being so great, which reminds me, for people that are watching, if you're watching live, awesome. Please, wherever you are, comment with us. If you're in StreamYard with us, comment, because we like to see the comments. It actually helps us. And this guest today will be great for you to ask questions of. So it's going to be a very organic conversation. It would be awesome. And also, if this is helpful, share it. subscribe to the channel so that you know when our next ones are coming up, because we've got a slew of amazing guests and many different topics related to your cash, credit, castle, and kingdom. So it helps us to see that you are sharing it, because then we know what you actually love and what you want to see more of. So leave us some comments and communicate with us, please. And I think it's time to bring in our guest. Are we ready?
Yay.
Okay. So today's guest, Rob Garcia, has designed his life as well as his paycheck. After failing out of high school and college, he developed speed learning as a method of hyper-education and went from dropout to having a PhD. He was professor of business. He is currently founder of Shift Magazine and is a business strategist in San Diego. Let's welcome Rob Garcia.
Hey, morning.
Here he is.
Hey, Robert.
Hey.
Oh, first of all, I forgot my tiara, so I apologize. I didn't realize it.
We'll make sure we'll send you one after.
But you got your coffee, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I've been drinking for quite a while, just getting fired up for this. The show so far has been amazing. I love some of the points you guys have already made. Taught me a few things.
Thank you. Hey, since it's in your bio, I feel that it's free to ask. I'm going to dive right in and ask, why was the situation a dropout? What happened there?
I grew up in a bad family. A lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol. I'm not shy about telling the story. And I moved 16 times from 1st to 11th grade in the same town. So
Wow.
a lot of upheaval, a lot of trouble. I had a learning disability, and I've always had trouble focusing in the classroom. So I failed out of high school. I failed out of the first 2 colleges I went to, and then in my late 20s, I started getting it together after I joined the military.
Do you think the military is what helped you to be able to, was it just focus and concentration on the work in order to get through the school stuff?
Being able to eat actually helped me quite a bit. That was my big problem at 19. It gave me a sense of structure and discipline that helped me to set my goals. And I started really getting into personal improvement when I was in the Air Force. And that kind of gave me the foundation. I got like 3 degrees before I got out in one pitch. So I had a bachelor's and like 2 associates, and I moved to San Diego.
Well, thank you for your service before we go any further.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
So could I ask you a question? Because we were reading your bio, and you had this word called speed learning, which
Yes.
can you explain what that, because I was like, I've heard of speed reading, but not speed learning. So I thought maybe you could explain what does that mean and how did that help you and us?
Absolutely. That's a great question. A lot of people do get the two mixed up, and they're not quite the same thing. So speed reading is when you train yourself to be able to skim through books and newspapers very, very quickly and just pick up what you need. And actually, it has to do with the way that you're viewing the words, believe it or not, and looking at the boundaries of the words versus the words themselves. Speed learning is where you figure out your learning style and you adopt methods that help you. So apparently, if academia and classroom education weren't optimal for me, I started thinking, okay, what ways did I learn things really quickly? And for me, it was diagramming, drawing pictures, using colors, using analogies, because I was more of a kinesthetic, hands-on, tactile learner. I learned by doing. And so there's 3 types. There's kinesthetic, there's auditory, there's visual. And so you got to kind of figure out what way kind of jives for you. Some people, the more analytical types, can focus in the classroom. They can benefit from sitting there listening to lectures and all that stuff, but I get bored. So I wrote a book about it, and I isolated 16 ways that we can learn things faster. And it's
where do we find your book?
Wow.
Where's the book?
It's The Next Level Supercharged by Dr. Rob Garcia. So if you just type in The Next Level Supercharged, it'll pop up. It's got a bright red cover.
That's cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon. It's on Lulu.com, a few places, but it's my best received book I've ever written. I've written 8, and that was my last one I did about 5 years ago. And it's very useful for dyslexics, and it's very useful for ADD.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
We should have had that in your intro. I had no idea that you had done
Right. And 8 books. Wow. We didn't know that either.
If I could
Something
interrupt,
new.
and I just want to say, I totally understand what you just said. I had a granddaughter who was failing algebra, and I volunteered to be her algebra teacher. I taught myself, but what I learned, it was the way they were teaching her. And I kept telling her, I'm going to make you an algebra rock star. I kept telling her that, and I taught her how to teach. I taught her visually instead of reading, and I got a text, Grandma, I'm an algebra rock star. I'm an A+ student. And all we did was teach her the way that she got taught. That was it.
That's great.
Wow.
Yeah.
I see that Margie, our backstage producer, Margie, has posted your book link in the comments on StreamYard here. So
Oh, awesome.
It's kind of like Singapore math. Singapore math is also where they taught a different way of teaching math, which is more visual than we typically teach. So,
Yeah.
So Robert, you're actually a social media guru. I love being on social media live as well. And so you're all the time on there teaching something fantastic. So how did you become the warrior strategist and a PhD in the first place? And how did you go from military to being a PhD and warrior strategist?
It's been a journey, ladies, just like your own journey with the show, right? When this show first started off, I'm sure you had to work out logistics and figure out what was working. What
Still happening. Still happening.
You're new.
Still working on it.
So just like everything, it's been a continual work in progress, and I've devoted about the last 15 years of my life to entrepreneurship. As far as the PhD went, I found out that the real key to winning wasn't intelligence, it was persistence. And I went to school with a lot of people who were far more better off in life than I was. They were very successful. They were a lot smarter, but they quit. And I stuck with it. It took me 6.5 years for about a 4.5-year program, but I finished a doctorate in education by the time I was 37 through immense sacrifice. I mean, like giving up relationships, giving up vacations, anything fun. If a paper comes back, your next 3 weekends are gone. And I was very, very dedicated. So that's how I was able to get the doctorate. As far as being the warrior strategist, I just harnessed my natural aptitudes and what I like doing, which is helping solopreneurs and experts become highly visible industry leaders, because everybody's an expert, right? Everybody's good at something, but you get lost in the noise if you don't have the unique branding proposition. And so right off the bat, this show is different from the other shows out there because you guys are all wearing tiaras. You've got a really nice logo. You've got a good flow. It's not like The View. People aren't fighting all the time. It's a fun, engaging show. People love you guys. And so that's what you guys do to stand out in your industries. Plus, what's interesting? All of you guys have your stories very well developed in your skill sets. And that's what I learned the last time we had a call, was every one of you has an area and a zone of genius, and you've all excelled in it. So that's something that experts can do. They can build up what they're very good at, and they can make branded products, whether it's, a printout of what they do, or a speech, or a series of videos, trainings, whatever. And that's how they can stand out from other people in their industry.
So cool. So cool. So when you say the term design your own paycheck, what does that actually mean? You say it to somebody, they look at you with their eyes glazed over and they're like, what? Huh? What does it mean?
It means that all of us have the ability to monetize our skill sets. And if you've done something well, or you know how to do something better than other people, you should be selling consulting calls. You should be making 5-day mini courses. You should be selling ebooks. There's 35 different ways you can make an income stream out of a skill set.
Now, can I stop you for just a second? You said selling consultation calls.
Yes.
And I know most of the coaches in the coaching world that I have been circulating in for the last many years, but I'm not even so much in it some more, but I can tell you that a lot of those coaches give consultations away.
Yeah, and that's the need to understand the difference between a discovery call, a sales call, and a consulting call, because they're different.
Yes.
So what they're doing is discovery in the hopes of sales.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're giving away consulting, then they're giving away their paycheck and they're working for free. And so whenever we're designing calls, you have to understand the functionality of each one. And this has been a really hot topic lately, because consulting calls mean that you're using your skill set and your expertise, literally the things people should pay you for, because you're getting specialized knowledge. Yes. And that's where you need to charge. You can design Ask Me Anything calls, you can design Teach Me Something calls, or you can design growth and progression calls, which is more natural for the coaching model. That's where you have a call every single week for a month, and you can sell packages of calls.
Yes. Yes. That's awesome. Good. I just had to catch that, because when you said you charge for consulting, I'm like, I know a lot of people don't do that.
So So that was such great knowledge. Is that how did we learn this knowledge from you that we just heard in 30 seconds? Make sure that we keep track.
The Design Your Paycheck group that I created is where I train people nearly every single day on these 35 streams. And so you can Google Design Your Paycheck. It's a private membership group in which every week I teach an income stream and monetization. So even if a person has, and I'm going to give you guys a very good tip, because one of the most popular questions I get is, Rob, I've been a mill spouse, I'm a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad. I never really went to school or learned how to do anything, but I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to make those income streams. What choice do I have that's quick? And I always tell them, start a media platform and start interviewing famous people and then sell advertising immediately.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, because people could do that immediately. They don't have to have a book right then and there. And you also said something about influencer partnerships.
Yeah. So that's something that people can do very easily. Is just reach out to people that you admire, that you like, that are further up the ladder with a value proposition. And just what you want to do, your goal is to get on a 15-minute video call with them and then just ask them what they need. Because influencers really only need 4 things. They need promotion, they need introductions to other influencers, they need opportunities, and they want to speak at events. Those are the big 4. If you can offer any of those, good to go.
Can you
say that one
dive
more
into
time?
that a little?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted him to say that one more time because I know that somebody is watching this and writing that down.
Yes.
So can you go back, because influencer marketing is really like what everybody is hungry for right now. I know Tammy has been talking about this too. And so again, those 4 things. I know you said stages, other influencers.
Speaking opportunities, introductions to other high-level people in the network, promotion. So you promote something that they sell, and then I went really
I made
fast.
you go backwards. Sorry.
The social media platform.
Yeah. Interviews, opportunities, things like
Yes.
that.
Opportunities. That was it. Opportunities.
You guys know I have Shift Magazine. We haven't even touched that yet, but I started a magazine, my own media platform, about 4 years ago. And so I had to learn how to recruit influencers to get these interviews. And so those were the 4 things I could offer. If you reach out to somebody, you say, hey, I'd love to interview you in my show. Most of them are going to say yes. And I've been very surprised at the level I've gotten to say yes. SEAL Team 6, Delta Force,
Wow.
New York Times bestselling authors. I mean, some really, high-level people. And it's not like I have some giant audience or some giant, behemoth magazine. It's just a plain dumb project I've been doing for 4 years for fun.
I have a feeling it's not dumb.
No, it works. It works. Now, what does Shift magazine stand for?
It really focuses on the ability for all of us to shift into who we can be. And
I love it.
If you think about Kathy, what is your upgrade? What's your next level? Like, if you were to improve 20%, and this is a great visual exercise in your mind, what would that look like? And this is, everybody should be journaling this. Everyone should be saying, if I was 20% better at what I did, or if I was the leader in my industry that set policy in my industry, what would that look like? Who would I be? So that's what Shift is about, is taking you and putting you at that level.
I want to get back to when you were talking about influencer partnerships a little bit. It seems to be a little bit of a game, something that you have to be a little light-footed about sometimes when you're new and you're trying to approach people with huge tribes and audiences. And I know in the YouTube world, it's sort of like they want to play in the same tier. So, having 100 subscribers, I'm not going to reach out to the guy who has 1 million and expect him to say yes, right? Should I start, at a 10,000 subscriber list and there, or what do you recommend for people that are just starting?
This is why we get on the video call, so we can ascertain need. Because here's what's interesting. The person that might have 100,000 subscribers might have very few interviews. Now, I have 176 interviews under my belt, and that got me 3 pages on Google. But your average influencer might not have a giant, they might have a lot of audience. And so when you get on that video call, you can ask them. And one thing you can do is just Google them, kind of, gauge the situation and see where they're at. And then if one thing you can offer, if you know they haven't had a lot of interviews, but they have a giant audience, just say, hey, I've got 3 of my friends that all have podcasts and interviews. We would love to all offer you, a comprehensive media plan. We'll interview you for free, and we'll get your Google stats up there. So that's one thing you can leverage, is your other friends' networks.
You mentioned comprehensive media plan. I know this is one of the things that you do, because we actually did have a mini consulting call with you. We were lucky enough to do that. That is gold that you bring. I think that's one thing that especially newbies aren't sure how to approach someone else and give them value. And I think that is what it is, right? You're building for them a media kit around your interview. So can you dive into that a little bit more?
Exactly. The easiest way to do this, because there's strength in numbers, and the easiest way to do this is just to get out a piece of paper and start writing down everybody you know that has a podcast, everybody you know that's got a magazine, everyone you know that has a video show, and then just reach out to them and say, hey, if I can get you an influencer level interview, can you put them at the front of the line and expedite it so that you interview them in under 3 weeks? And almost everybody's going to say yes. And it benefits everyone. And then when you can approach the influencer and say, hey, I've got 5 interviews just waiting for you. Let's do this. Of course they're going to say yes.
Like
Cool.
that.
Like you're their own little mini PR person for the second,
Exactly.
Now, I want to ask, a lot of people don't know how to ask for their self-worth, right? They're having an issue with that. And so when they want to design their own paycheck, how could they ask for what they, what their self-worth is? Like, I've been dancing for 40 years, and I remember just going on to social media in a belly dance group, and they said, how much should I charge for private Zoom lessons? And I'm thinking, well, what are you worth, right? What's your expertise? So you can't just put a number out there. I think you really have to delve inside you and what is your expertise? So, I mean, what would you say to people like that for their self-worth?
So that's actually a 50-50 question, because it involves pricing, but it also involves self-perception. When people ask me, how do I price whatever service? I say, okay, apply this to it. And I'm going to give a list again. I'm sorry, but apply this to your own list of services. And so what you want to apply is your level of experience, your education level, the level of branding that you have. So are your photos really good? Do you have a lot of videos? Do you have a fancy logo like you guys do? The level of star power associated. So if your business has ever been affiliated with Les Brown or Marie Forleo or somebody, that's star power, and that increases your pricing.
Yeah.
Media exposure, like how popular you are, and then most importantly, the actual client experience or your past testimonials and results. Mm-hmm. That's a big one, especially in the coaching world. If everybody you work with is some kind of rock star and you've got these crazy case studies of before and after, then you can charge as a premium expert.
Yes. Yes.
Well, yeah, that's great. This is all great to know, because again, I think it starts with your self-worth, though. You have to believe in yourself before asking that. And I say, just bring your prices high. If they really want, you to get coached or to coach by you, they're going to pay for it.
Yeah. It's interesting when you said that, Celia, because I was in a program last year and I was explaining my program. And when we talked about pricing, I had a price that was like $147. And the person who was coaching says, your product is worth $990. He says, I would pay $997 for what I just learned from you in 15 minutes. That's what he said to me. So I think this whole idea of what do you charge is a very interesting conversation. Yeah.
I think a lot of people really underestimate themselves and their products, right?
And our value, the value we bring.
Well, I know women do. Is there a difference, Rob, between men and women and how they perceive themselves in your eyes? I'm just curious.
Oh, I'm not answering that question.
Against poor girls.
Yeah, I'm not falling into that trap, Sandra. Yeah.
I almost had you.
I know, right? So I was speaking with Patty Aubrey. She was one of my speakers for my CEO Business Network Summit 2 years ago. And she told me, she says that it's easier to charge a higher price for your services and get people to get in then make it lower services, lower price. And she has a $25,000 program and people are in it constantly. She says it's easier to sell that than a 197 product. It's like, this is crazy.
I had the exact same experience with my early consulting calls. So, get in the time machine, get in the DeLorean, go back 4 years, and I'm selling consulting calls for $127. I cannot sell them to save my life. And it's the same Rob, same PhD, same person. So 2 years later, I increased them to $750 overnight, and I'm still selling them. It's insane. And all I did was what's in the call and then make the graphics a little better. And that was it. And I'm just really plain about my client results, about what I've done. And really, it's just about the experience you create in your own mind. And so if somebody comes to me and they say, millionaires say, wow, I don't even charge $750 for a consulting call. How do you define that? How do you make it worth it? And I'm like, well, my consulting calls are a unique design. So you get an hour call with me, you get a month of planning, you get a follow-up, and you get a transcript of what we talked about. So I take care of people. So it's not just a singular call. It's a month of planning, and then I come back and I verify that what I've taught you works. And I've never had any complaints. And so that's the power of pricing what you feel that you're worth.
And I like the fact that you're all structured. So you have to be clear on what you want to give out there and talk about. So, being clear, getting your paycheck. I love that. Yeah. Awesome. This is awesome.
You had a really interesting post on social media the other day, Rob. It talked about your 4 tenets, which I think we've covered a bit here, but can you repeat that for the sake of our viewers, so you can share that value with them?
Absolutely. So a couple of years ago, I created a visibility and growth course called Tactical CEQ. It went on to break about 25,000 in sales. So apparently I was doing something right. But Tactical CEQ in itself, there's branded graduation coins. So that's something I did to make it kind of stand out for graduates. It's based upon 4 things. And this is something that will apply to every single person that's watching this, every single business model across the board. And if you do it right, you'll have growth. The 4 things are strategic social media, media interviews, influencer partnerships, and teacher industry. Sit down with a piece of paper, make 4 quadrants, write those down, and then just 3 things that you can do in each of those to improve. And your business and your perception and your audience will all grow.
I like the fact that you also put in that post that you don't need gimmicks or tricks to do all this. You just be you. You need to be unique.
Yeah. I'm really big about transparency. I'm really big about what I can and can't do. And there's too many people out there that fall for the, take my 6 or 7 figure blueprint overnight and then up level to a mastermind and up level to a lot of coaching you don't need. Too many people want the easy way out instead of really digging for experts and people that can actually help them with proven results. And I really wish people would take the time to stop trying to fix themselves overnight, stop trying to build this 7-figure phantom business overnight, and just put in the work. Gradual growth is fine.
And as you start to grow your business, Robert, have you been able to figure what to delegate? In other words, like obviously, as you're building a business as an entrepreneur, what copywriting is. I mean, you have a magazine, so you certainly know what that is. But you don't necessarily have to be the one to do it. So
exactly.
Do you have anything you can give people as to like how to learn when to delegate certain tasks?
Yeah, that's such a good question, Sandra. Thank you. So I operate in a tier system, and this also can apply to any business model. So if you're at 0 to 5,000, you're going to pretty much do all the grunt work yourself. And then once you hit 5 to 10,000, which I call tier 2, you're going to need to get your first VA or admin assistant. The first things you want them to do is your social media, answer emails, customer responses, and then reminders. So I hired an ops manager. That's their entire job, is to send me reminders, and then for me to have a sounding board once a week to just talk about all the crazy things in my brain. Once you what's that?
Oh, never mind. I'll ask you when you get. I shouldn't have interrupted. Just keep going because you used an interesting word that I just want to go back to.
Once you hit tier 1, which is 10,000 or more a month, then you need to have an operations manager as a buffer for your specialists. And the only person that reports to you directly is the operations manager. So essentially, what you're doing is you're creating an org tree for your level of employees. And then at that point, you've outsourced your social media, you've outsourced your admin tasks, the grunt work, the stuff that you don't need to be wasting time doing. And if you think of it in military terms, it really helps when you're thinking about who you need to hire.
So that's what I was just getting ready to say. You spoke ops manager in military terms. We call them VAs. Our terminology is a VA. You definitely spoke in military. You're an op, and that's such a, and that is such. I really like that terminology because that's what your VAs do sort of for you. We hire out all these people, but you need that ops manager in the middle. I love that.
Your VA is your executive assistant. So they are at the bottom of the pyramid. You're at the top of the pyramid. Your ops manager is the mid-level manager. And so your ops manager is your captain, your VA is your sergeant, and then you are the colonel or the general, depending on how big your business is.
And I think a lot of us in the internet world, we miss that ops manager. We miss that ops manager person. And I think that's a critical part of growing our businesses.
I think whenever people come to me and they say, Rob, I've made a good amount of money, but I have zero time in the day. My wife hates me. I don't know what my kids look like anymore. I'm clocking about 18 hours every single day. I have more money than God, but I hate my life. The first thing I do is I say, okay, who's your ops manager? Who's handling this stuff for you? Because what's happening is, and this is, I will say this is a thing with men. They want to do it all. They want to power through it in some kind of dumb ego thing that we have as men, where they refuse to ask for help and they refuse to say, hey, this is not good for my health and I'm 30 pounds overweight. I'm not, my life is miserable, but I have money. So the first thing I tell them, okay, hire a good ops manager so that your employees, whoever's at the bottom, are not pestering you with questions all day long. At your level, the strategic level, you just need to be making growth decisions for the company and receiving reports weekly from your ops manager. That's it. You should not be teaching your employees. You should not be answering emails. You should not be, running out for copies. All these things. Effective leaders delegate and they invest back in their company. The first thing, I had a very good month in November. The first thing I did, hired an ops manager, and then we talked about structure and we talked about who to bring on. And she has probably freed up 25% of my time.
Wow.
Do you have a, if I was going to hire an ops manager, do you have a description of what that person should have as their skill set that we could maybe share with people? Or
you give them a trial run for about 12 days and you let them know it's a probationary period. And then you explain to them what their responsibilities are and aren't, and when they need to contact you. And ultimately, it depends on your business model. Is this a person that needs to talk to customers? Is this a person who strictly needs to manage secretaries and VAs and assistants? Remember that an ops manager specifically is middle management. They have to have decision ability and be able to rationalize decisions and then be accountable for them as well. So you don't want somebody that's defensive or easily emotional or gets mad about stuff. They can handle polite criticism, but they do have to have leadership ability.
Did you feel that the values of the company have to be very strong within that person as well? I mean, if you're talking about trusting somebody, you're essentially trusting somebody with your baby, with your business. So how do you assure, how would you, Robert, assure that somebody has similar values to and is going to be acting in the same way that you would when it comes down to decisions?
One thing I did, that's an awesome question. You guys are really, really getting some good content out of me today. I love these questions. So the one thing I did when I was in the early stage with my manager is I said, okay, this is where you can make decisions up to this level. This is where you need to contact me. These are the standards for the company and what our priorities are. And so for me, for example, a dynamic and unique client experience where, as Mike Michalowicz says, under promise and over deliver. And if you can do that for every client you ever work with, you're going to have a line out the door. And so it is important. I like that. I like talking about company values and what's important to you. For me, an environmental respect is very important, making sure that the contractors that work under us, like for the magazine, are all appreciated. They're all in a good place. And one thing I did, I did two things that are very unusual that you guys might value from. But when I hired my ops manager, I said, okay, what do you want to do task-wise? What do you never want? So that was the first thing. And what she didn't want to do is write media pitches. So guess what? I hired a media pitch writer. And she doesn't, and my ops manager hasn't had to write a single pitch. She just oversees them, which is fine. The second thing I did is I paid her to up-level and learn skills. So we implemented this new coaching software called AttractWell, and it's incredible, but we both needed to learn it. So I said, okay, you're going to jump on this week. You're going to do this for 3 hours. I'm going to pay you for those 3 hours. So I actually paid for her training.
There you go. Yeah.
That's
And you
great.
were doing the same. You were doing the same thing.
Yeah, and it's called Trackwell. Is it TRAC? Trackwell, TRAC?
Attract. So the word attract.
Oh,
and then well,
attract. Okay.
ALL. Yeah, it's the best coaching software I've ever seen by far, because it lets you manage all your customers. It lets you landing pages. It lets you create courses, and it's $50 a month.
Speaking, that I wanted to touch on that, and this is a great segue. You're talking about one of your tenets that you mentioned before was teach your industry. Here you are teaching your ops manager, you're learning alongside of them. This software allows you to teach others via a course. When are you ready for that? When does a person know that they're ready to take that next step, go to that next level and teach others? When do they feel that when should they feel that they're ready, or just take the plunge?
In my speed learning book, I made a pyramid, and of course I named it after myself. And I made this pyramid of learning where there's 5 stages of comprehension for any skill or job. When you're at the 3rd stage, which is the equivalent bachelor's degree, or if you could teach a junior college course on it. So that's kind of how to think of it. If you're at the point, information comes in different levels. And so you could teach subjects. That's the lowest level. Okay. So I'm not an Amazon pro. Some of you are. And so if I were to just write, about Amazon at my level, I can only teach subjective or informational. Like Amazon's made by Jeff Bezos. It's global audience. People sell things. That's my extent. Now, if I'm at a point where I could teach tactics or strategy, then that's the next level up. That's the mid tier. And that's where you can start making stuff. Hey, how to do 5 set up your Amazon shop. If you're at the point where you can look at someone's page and know if it's good or bad on Amazon, and you could sell diagnostics and do audits, you're ready to teach.
Just hopping on that one minute, I was an instructor at certain points in the e-commerce world, and I didn't always know what I was going to teach. Not that I didn't know it, but it encourages you to delve into it more than you've ever done before, and really absorb the material, test the material, try the material more than you would have otherwise if you didn't teach it. So that's one thing I love about teaching. And I would encourage anyone that, is kind of afraid to take that next, that plunge into that, just immerse yourself into it. And you will emerge a wonderful leader of that topic, if you go through that.
And I think also about, if we look at all the statistics, I think if they call it e-learning, that's like one of the huge opportunities to build and grow your paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. That's the crux of my entire life. It's why I was able to quit my day job. All I am at the end of the day is a professional educator. I just get paid a lot more than when I was teaching college.
Yeah.
I hear you there.
What did that first experience teaching college, what did you carry from that was a good thing?
It was good to see the difference, the juxtaposition between teaching entrepreneurship to people versus actually doing it and then teaching it at my level. And what I mean by my level is, in a classroom, I taught, okay, here's a brick and mortar. This is how they did their marketing. This is how they negotiated rent. This is how they made the product line. Well, guess what? It's very constructed. It's very confined. If you're going to, open up a brick and mortar, that's great. But entrepreneurship is a lot more than that. And I don't deal with standalone storefronts usually. I deal with solopreneurs who are experts who want to go to that next level and be very visible. So when Rob got out of the classroom, he started making stuff that appealed to people more on a more human level versus just teaching out of a textbook.
Yes. Much more practical, real life.
I tell you, we could be here all day talking to you, Robert, and I wish we had the time to go all day long with you. We're going to have to bring you on again for sure.
Anytime.
Oh, gosh.
Very valuable.
It was amazing talking to you.
We'll talk about your book next time.
Yes,
I'm buying that book immediately.
Yes. So do you have any some sort of like an ebook that you could give out to our audience, or a worksheet that they could like start getting that paycheck coming in?
I would suggest just going to my YouTube channel. And so there's a lot of client level videos on there, the kind of stuff I should be charging for. Okay. I make sure that when I do YouTube videos, it is wildly effective content. I give away far more than I should. I talk about how I made, $20,000 in a month. I talk about the 3 things I use to make $10,000 in a day.
Wow.
It's different things that are very high impact. I taught how I got 175 interviews, like the 3-step process for getting all the media interviews you ever wanted. So yeah, just look up Rob the Warrior Strategist on YouTube. I think it's Blue Dragon Rob 1, and just go through the playlist. There's gonna be something on there that's gonna change your life.
Thank you so much, Robert. Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Robert.
We're gonna let you go. We're gonna let you go. We know that you've got a lot of day ahead of you. So thank you so much for sharing what you did with us.
Thanks, you, Robert.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.
Wow. Oh my God. Now I started actually writing things down. I said, you know what? I'm just going to have to rewatch this because there was so much good stuff.
My suggestion is, can we take this and there was so much theory that can we turn it into like a transcript that we could also provide? So that we can
do that.
We'll put it in great. Yeah.
A lot of good takeaways today.
Yeah, great. It was an amazing knowledge source.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, as we're moving on, we want to also recommend, please, guys, I know, keep commenting. We have some commenters in there. We really appreciate it. And if this is good, you find his information good, our information good, please share and subscribe to our channel. We are building our channel here as well to be able to give more great info to y'all. I can do that because I'm in Texas. Yeah.
You are allowed, yes.
Do we want to give a little shout out to the people that are commenting the most? Who do we got? I saw some names over there on my end, but I know that there's more platforms that I can't see. So
Elena is a first-time commenter with us here today. She was loving the advice, and I know she's a young millennial entrepreneur. So glad you're with us. Elena, thank you.
Yes, that's fantastic.
Excellent.
We have a quote today too, so let's celebrate our quote, shall we? This one comes from Winston Churchill. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. And that's from Winston Churchill. And sometimes, like he was saying, the very first thing that Rob said to us, one of the first things was, more so than talent, it's persistence.
Yes.
It's that tenacity, and that's where courage comes in, is to just keep moving forward. It's the courage to say, yes, I can speak on that topic when you may not have the platform yet, but you're just going to say yes.
Right. And I want to add discipline. You need discipline and that persistence to move forward.
And empowered.
I think that's the thing military gives you is discipline. Discipline.
Right.
I work. Yeah, I'm just saying I worked for the military as a civilian for a while, and the reason when he said that, I knew he was military because I think I know that word. That's why they're delivering our vaccines today, because they put the military in charge, because they do what they do. They are trained to execute. That means you got to kill someone, they're going to go kill someone, but they are trained to execute. So
we're going to
executing. I forgot to tell everyone, that we're going to reward Elena with an empowerment guide. We have one of those to give away. So
Yay.
thanks for being with us and thanks for commenting, Elena. We'll get you an empowerment guide to keep you empowered through your entrepreneurial journey. Thank you.
Yay, we love that. And for those of you that are around and want more of this, then join us next week. Next week, our show is going to be all about networking, the best way to do it so that you are not wasting your time, because your time is money. Your time is something you can't get back. So we're going to be really careful about how you spend it when you are networking. And for now, you guys, we're off on our own day. We wish you the best. Have a great one. We're out.
Bye.